Hey, my name is Reed, and I'm here today to talk about my first 10 to 11 months of playing the piano, of learning, and all the sheet music I've accumulated since then. What has worked for me, what hasn't, and what was just a complete waste of my money and I never used, and what was actually useful for me. So, in my 10 to 11, approximately months, let's just say 10 months of learning the piano, this is all the sheet music that I bought and that I actually use, but I didn't use the whole book, of course, but yeah. So, it's pretty thick, so it's pretty useful. Um, this, I never even, like, I guess I tried, but the answer is no. So I guess we should start off by the elimination round. Schumann's Album for the Young. This one is the Alfred Masterwork edition. I don't like this Alfred Masterwork edition, and the reason is because actually this one's not that bad, but there's a lot of extra stuff that you don't need, like a lot of editorial markings and a lot of things that are just kind of, they get in the way. For example, these right here, they just get in the way. So I got this with the intention that, hey, these pieces, they sound easy, but they were too difficult for me. So I never even used this, haven't played anything from it, and I'm actually waiting until, they do seem easier now, like after 10 months, but I bought this book, I can't remember when I bought it, but I must have bought it like 4 to 5 months in. And at that point, I really wasn't ready for this at all. I must have bought this around the time that I got Girlitz. Yeah. So, Schumann Album for the Young was a no-go. First 10 months, no. There's a dog. It's okay. Okay. So, this one is actually the most recent one. um this is my most recent one. It's Mozart's. I got the Urtext because I wanted to make sure that I got the most accurate representation of Mozart's music, and I actually haven't used this, not because it's too difficult at 10 months, but because I've taken hiatus. I haven't really played for like a month and a half or 2 months, and now I'm just getting back into it. So what I can say about this is I love the color. I love how it's very straightforward and there are no like extra markings there that you don't need. And I love how it has the contents like this. Um, so I haven't gotten to this, but I will get to this. And I feel like it's definitely doable in the first 10 months. I feel like this was doable a couple of months ago for me. Yeah. So, Diabelli? Okay. The first studies, 125. So this one I haven't used it, and Actually, the reason I got this was for one of them. I don't know which one it was now. And I haven't used it. I find that the color is easy on the eyes. So the reason I haven't used this is not because it's too difficult at this level, but because I just haven't gotten to it. Because as I will explain with this pile right here, I've been really just hammering down on Bergmillers, and I finally decided to just put Bergmiller on a hold and, learn some new things. So I haven't used that, but not because it's too difficult. Um, I definitely feel that this one is doable for you in the first year. Um, it's very straightforward, and it's mainly like really patterns, and I see repeated chords, patterns, repeated notes. So it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple, and this should be doable within the first year if you are of comparable level to me. Kabalevsky. I haven't used this. Even though it's pretty straightforward, um, I guess the reason why it felt so intimidating to me is because look at how much space there is between the staves, like it's just so much space there. The notes are very tiny. I don't particularly like this format. Uh, I felt like this was difficult to read in the first couple of months, but now that I look at it, it does seem easier at 10 months. It definitely seems doable at 10 months. So this is something that I will look forward to doing. I will say this is a Schirmer, and I just typically just don't like Schirmer, which I will explain this. I might do a little section at the end on my favorite publishers and my favorite formats for sheet music. Kabalevsky's 30 children's pieces. So this was 24 pieces for children, and this was 30 pieces. So this one I feel actually it still looks pretty easy. Once again, I feel like once I got to, once I got to like 6 or 7 months, I feel like this might have been doable. Of course, I just saw, for example, this spiritual right here. I see a lot of accidentals, sharps and flats and naturals, and I see how that can be challenging. And also just important to look at the key signature as well. Not just like the notes and the patterns of the notes, but the key signature. If you see, like, for example, this one right here, it's a lot of repeated chords that are just the same. I would say that at 10 months, a lot of the pieces that I thought were not doable, like around 6 or 7 months, are definitely feel more doable and feel like I would be capable of doing them if I actually put the time into it. I think that studying Bergmiller for a long time and just really going through them has really helped me in my progress and just overall, like, yeah. But I do feel that there are some pieces here that are kind of difficult. It would take some time and a lot of effort. For example, look at this. It has 3 flats, and then you have sharps and naturals within them. So this is definitely something that was more challenging. I would say that kind of like at the 6 or 7 month mark, this was challenging for me, and I would not have been able to do this. Now I say that at 10 months, it's possible. So let's move on to this other music. So I'm going to try to go in order. Actually, I don't think I can go in order because I can't remember the order. But let me just summarize them for you. So, this one, First Steps of the Young Pianist, early intermediate piano solos. I will tell you right now, the only piece I did from this book was number 35, and this was harder than it would have been if I would have had a little more experience when I did it. So I love this book. Actually, I find this publisher really great because the notes are very easy to read. The staves are really big. It's very easy to read. Um, so I really like these books, the early level classics. I find, and whenever I see something that's like early level classics and like this kind of format, comparable to this right here. So these two, very good. Highly recommend these two publishers. You'll see that they look the same. They're very big. They're very good. This one seems bigger than the other one. This one, probably because I had it open for a while, I had it out. It kind of looks like it's been yellowed. Yeah. So on the topic of this, the only one I did was number 35 from here. I think it's in E minor, and it's in the AMEB syllabus. I don't know if it's preliminary. I think it might be. I'm not sure. I will put a comment on here. So yeah, I haven't really checked out any of the other ones, to be honest. I actually just got it because of that, but I really like it because of the format. Once again, this one has the same format. This one I started out, but somewhere along the line in my piano path, I became very, very focused on Bartók and Bergmüller, and I just kind of abandoned the canons. I abandoned the Czerny and whatever, and I just went straight to those pieces. So this one, I would say you can start without knowing anything, and like so. So I use these for sight reading, and they're really good for sight reading and hand independence. Max Kuhn's late elementary piano solos, 200 short 2-part canons, recommended to me by Piano TV. I think her name is Alyssa. Yeah. So this is not for, well, this was approximately maybe at like 3 months in or so. I don't recommend this for sight reading because it was a piece that I kind of worked on for that time. But now I would say 10 months in, this could be potentially sight reading for me. This is definitely sight reading, even just if you're starting out. If you look at the basics of these pieces, you'll see that you have parallel motion, contrary motion, and these things, once you kind of know how to look at the notes, whether they're going together or apart, it becomes much easier to sight read them. All right, so let's just get rid of some. This pile right here are pieces that I started, and I did some of them, and mostly they haven't really been at the top of what I've been doing. Czerny practical method. I remember when I first started this, within the first month that I was learning, I couldn't sight read this. It was too difficult for me. And not only this, but the Schirmer, once again, it was very difficult to read. It's very tiny. Starting out, this was very difficult for me, and I was really struggling, and it really like demotivated me. Now, 10 months in, I would say this would be good for sight reading. Actually, it would be very good because this one has thirds and seconds, has very small intervals, and it seems more doable now at this level. I would say that maybe 7 months in, I would have been able to start sight reading this, but I didn't feel interested in it, honestly. Didn't feel useful to me. And the reality is that I haven't really used this. Oddly enough, I would say this initial page is more difficult than this page right here. So it's kind of strange, but initially it's more difficult than it becomes after. This becomes more like a piece, whereas this is just like it's a test of your sight reading abilities, and as a beginner, I felt like this was way too difficult for me. I was really struggling with this. Um, this was I have a marking right here. This was wow. This was when I started. Like my first week of starting, I couldn't do this. So yeah. Jazz, Rags, and Blues by Martha Meir. uh, Late elementary to early intermediate. I've gotta admit, like, okay, so I really love the formatting. It's really great. It's a lot like the what is it called? Early Level Classics by Alfred. Big font, really great, really easy to read. The piece that I did from here was Surfboard Boogie. I did this about 6 months in, and this was like really easy, relatively easy, and it was very intuitive. I felt, um, yeah, it was pretty nice. I haven't really dug much into this because the pieces are kind of modern for me, and I prefer more classical and romantic pieces. Um, but if you're into that, this is definitely a good book. Woo! Snip preparatory exercises up number 16. This is like hypnosis. If you start practicing this, you will be hypnotized, and you will start to lose yourself. So I love these exercises. I love them. And I need to do them more, to be honest. I would do them more, and I would do them in more keys if I could, but I've been so focused on burglar, and my technique has really gone down the drain. I'm hoping to get back to that. So this is Shermer once again. However, because they're kind of like exercises and they follow a very easy pattern that's very intuitive, they're not that difficult in this format for a beginner or early intermediate. Um, I would say I did every couple of days. I would do a new exercise, and then I would just play through all of them. And some of them, so the thing about these is it really trains you to be variable with your muscle memory, because once you start playing one of them, your mind kind of gets into that pattern, and when you get to the next one, it's kind of like a different pattern, but it sounds the same, so it's kind of tricky, and it makes you you can feel it in your brain when you're trying to do the new pattern, and your mind keeps going back to that old pattern. So this is really good for that. I highly recommend this. This is great. I loved it. It's hypnotic. It's relaxing, and I really recommend doing this at the beginning. It's really great. Improve your sight reading. Level 1, the first one. I would say this was a waste. I got this at about 3 months or 4 months. Let me see. Of course, I didn't put the date on them. Yeah, this was kind of a waste, and if you're interested in these books, however, they're I feel like they are useful to some extent, but if you are interested in this, I would recommend if you're doing something like this one right here, number 35, I would recommend going higher up. Don't get the first book, get another higher book. And a good way to gauge this is if you can sight read pieces from Piano Adventures level 1, then this is too easy for you. Piano Adventures level 1. Wow, like I use this for sight reading. I have never felt any need to work on this for more than 15 minutes. And I sight read them a couple times, and by the third time that I sight read them, I've already got it. These are very easy, very straightforward, and the reason primarily that I got these was for sight reading because I was able to play pieces that were late beginner, early intermediate, but my sight reading wasn't there yet. I could not sight read those pieces, so I knew that I had to work on my sight reading. This was too easy. This was just right. So I love these. These are very fun, and even you might be like, oh, that's for children. No, these are great. I love these. They're very expressive, they're very varied, and they have a lot of useful information. I suggest these for sight reading, and they're just great. I look forward to getting the next level one, and actually haven't finished it because I haven't been working on my sight reading. I've been focused on Bergmiller's etudes, so yeah. Complete book of scales, chords, arpeggios, and cadences. So, this is a good reference, but it's not good for practice. It's not good for kind of like drilling into it. This is good for if you have a piece that you're learning, you should have this. So, let's just say you're learning a sonatina, and the sonatina is an F major. Well, the first thing you should do is go here to F major and just look it up and learn about F major. So I feel like this was very useful. I feel like the formatting could be better, especially in the pages of the key itself. But I found that the instruction, this is very extremely useful, especially if you're playing a piece and then you think, oh, this sounds very similar to this key, right? And then you look and it's like, oh, that's because it's the relative minor key. So what I really liked about this book was it explained inversions, chord inversions, and this has been a really useful resource for that because it was very confusing for me, the inversions and the chords and like the 1 and the 5, the dominant, the 7th, the G something, the everything, the diminished. This is useful as a reference. I would say it's not really necessary because you could find all this information on the internet, but if you do have money to spare, I would suggest it's a good thing to have in your arsenal. Alright, let's go on to, I'm gonna go here, next section. Okay. So, first lessons in Bach. This is the first sheet music that I bought. The first piece that I tried to learn was Musette in D major, and it was obviously, I had to step down from that. That's when I really started focusing on going back to the basics, and I got this book. So, I was learning this. I first started learning this at the beginning, but it didn't sound like I wanted it to sound, and it wasn't as easy as it would have been if I would have gone here first, and I would have done some Bartok first, and just after 2 months, 1 month or 2 months of this would have been 10 times easier. So I highly recommend the other stuff, but I would say I started this like my first time, and it didn't sound comfortable. There's a difference when you're playing and something sounds tense, and then it sounds comfortable. And this celebration series and Bartok and Bergmiller gives you the confidence to go into this. This, I feel, don't do it at least until you have 4 months in, and then it'll be easy for you and it'll sound much better. So once again, this is firmer. However, 10 months in, 6 months in, 7 months in, this is pretty straightforward, and it shouldn't be difficult because there aren't that many notes in it, and given the format is so tiny, it doesn't really matter because it looks easier when you get to like 5 months. This is gonna look much easier than if you just start this your first month. So I don't recommend starting out with this. I know people probably really start out with this. They start out the minuet, and I started out my first month with this minuet, and I don't recommend this. I just don't, because I just practiced this for months and months and months, and the truth is I could have learned this in 2 weeks, and I didn't need to spend that much time in it. The only reason I did was because I didn't have enough experience. So I don't recommend starting out with this. All right, this one, really great for beginners, really great, easy to read, straightforward. I did minuet in A minor, andante in G minor. This feels like you could literally play it on a loop for hours and you wouldn't get tired. It's kind of like very hypnotic. And what I like about this, some people like collections like this. Some people like specific collections by one composer. This is good because it gives you a wide variety of different pieces, and because they're graded, you know that they're going to be on the same level. They're good for sight reading as well. They're easier pieces if you're in your first couple months, and if you're at 10 months, sight reading this is going to be super easy, and you can learn a piece in like a week or less than a week. You could learn a piece from this book at 10 months in. Bartok. I have been using Bartok for sight reading, and let me just say, Bartok is amazing and hypnotic as well. A lot of hypnotic pieces in this repertoire. So I use these as exercises for sight reading, and the only problem I have with this is that at one point it becomes there's kind of like a leap in the difficulty, so you're kind of like it's going, it's progressing, but then all of a sudden you get to number 24, pastoral in A major. And I would say, you guys, do not be discouraged, but this is what might have really stopped me from practicing for like 1.5 months. I'm just gonna be real with you guys. Sight reading this is just 5 times more difficult than sight reading this right here. So if you're sight reading this, don't be discouraged. You might have to take a new approach when you're starting out here. This is an actual like piece. It's gonna take longer, and it's just not gonna be the same thing as sight reading everything that comes before it, unfortunately. So another thing that I have to say is near like 18 or so, it becomes more difficult because now you have sharps and flats, and you're also doing a counterpoint with sharps and flats. So you have to keep an eye on those sharps and flats as well as the counterpoint. So that adds a new level of difficulty. So this can present barriers for you that might make you feel like you're getting stuck, and this might make it harder for you. But don't feel discouraged. Just take it slow and you can move past it. Don't be like me, because I gave up just because of this, and I feel really bad about it, but the truth is that number 24 is probably what led to me not practicing for a really long time. Okay, so we're almost done. It's been a long journey. So I'm just gonna go through these right here. So these are some pieces that I printed out, and honestly, the reason is because I didn't feel like buying a whole collection just to have these pieces. They are copyright free. You can find them on IMSLP, print them out, and what I did is I got a sticky label from the Dollar Tree. I put the names on Word and printed them out, stuck them there, and added them into this folder. So I would say uh, this is very much doable. So here I have the ones that I actually did was Ecosays by Beethoven. This one right here. So I started this piece much before, and I found that it was too difficult for me because I just couldn't do the counterpoint. I just couldn't get those hands together down. It was too early for me. And then I revisited this maybe about 8 months in, and that's when I was able to do it. I gotta admit, I would have been able to do it faster, but this guy took a lot of my time. So, okay. So I would say that. Then I have the step, uh, which is AMEB. I think it's grade 2. And this was a little bit intuitive, actually. Even though it does have counterpoint, it was intuitive. Then I have Prelude in C minor. However, AMEB has it in D minor, so you might want to take a look at that and see what would be better for you. I really like the C minor, and I found that it was fine. It was doable for me. I did this around the same time as I did the Ecosays. And then I started working on this reading accompaniment for the violin concerto. I started working on this 8 months in, and I would say that the first couple of measures were the hardest ones, and I only got that far. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna wait later on. I can't do this yet, that's okay. It's gonna take me a little bit longer, but I'm gonna get to it. I would say now, at 10 months, now that I'm kind of kicking it up a notch, I've started to really challenge myself. It might be more doable for me, but I'm still holding off on it. Other than that, I have another piece that is from a TV show, which is a dream piece for me that I printed out because I just wanted to have it there because it's a goal for me. But it's kind of like a very advanced, and I'm not going to do it yet, obviously. All right, I did the bar talk. So we only have 3 left. I guess I'm going to go ahead with Burgermüller. So this has been kind of my main thing for several months now, except now I'm taking a break because I was overdoing it. And I guess part of the reason that I am taking a break is because it starts to introduce chords and different chords and a lot of different chords. The chords began to overwhelm me. So something that you'll notice about all this sheet music that I have here, it's not really chord heavy. It's not. And I have problems with chords. I find that these studies by Burgermüller are amazing, and I love how they sound. They sound very professional, and they're very easy, and I feel like each one has their own specific purpose. They are strummers, so they're harder to read at the beginning, but because they have a defined pattern to them and they don't have that many notes to them, they're easier to read than if it were Sturmer in a more advanced level. So I would say that the trouble begins in, it's not like it's that much of a trouble, but somewhere around like 5. See, I did progress about 5 months in, and I did Innocence about 9 months in, because after I started Progress, I decided I was going to go through the whole book and do the whole book. And that was working out for me until I realized that I was just really focused on this and I got really overwhelmed with the chords. So I decided, hey, I'm going to do some other stuff for now and then come back to this later, because I've just been too focused on this and I haven't really been paying attention to anything else. I really recommend this. I highly recommend this. They sound so good. Each one of them has their own technical aspects of them that will really help you grow really like a lot. And I found a challenge in La Petite Réunion where you have to do thirds and it's like a melody with thirds. That was challenging and that was a new step for me. I felt like after doing that piece, I felt like I really grew, and this book is really great for learning new techniques and feeling like you've really advanced. So I highly recommend this. It's getting really sunny. I'm probably burning right now, guys. I'm burning. Okay. So, Sonatina, select the sonatinas. Once again, beautiful formatting, large notes, large, very easy to read for a beginner. I gotta admit, 6 or 7 or 8 months, this became kind of pointless because I felt like if this were Shermer, I could have read this at 7 months. However, this is really great when you're starting out and you have anxiety about reading music just because it looks so tiny and you're just kind of like, oh god, oh there's too much, this is perfect. So I really like this book. I really recommend this publisher. It's Alfred and it's a selected works, early intermediate. Something that will probably happen if you have this book and you have this Sonatina book is you'll have an overlap, but that's okay. And then you can actually compare them to see if there's any difference in the notation. So the sonatina that I did here was, I first started learning Beethoven's sonatina in G major, and I don't know when I started learning that. It must have been like 4 months in, and it was too difficult for me because of the counterpoint. So I started on sonatina in C major, Clementi, and as you can see, I was circling the notes that went together because I was still at that level. So I started this maybe 6 months, no, 5 months in, like 5 or 6 months in, and I would say it was much harder for me than it would have been if I would have waited a little longer, but I felt like this was good for me. The second movement actually was very nice and I really liked it. It was very nice. I felt the third movement presented more of a challenge with the counterpoint, and overall I really liked it. It was a piece that I felt like I didn't really want to learn it, but I felt like I had to learn it because it was a standard. Would I have maybe picked a different piece? Yeah. Was I really happy with this book specifically? Yes, because the format was very large. I do find that there's a lot of repetition here. There's kind of like wasting of sheet music because it repeats. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to put the repeats in a format, so I understand. Yeah. Overall here, this one, these are the contents. And I highly recommend this series for beginners simply because of the large format. Lastly, moving on to this album right here. This is the one that I'm working on now. I started working on, what am I working on? The Kulau Sonatina in C major, number 20. Oh, this formatting, as you can see, it's very small, so it's harder to read. But at 10 months, guys, this is going to be doable for you. You know, I can sight read hands separately. I can sight read this pretty easily, and I would say at 10 months, you could get away with starting this piece and starting to sight read this, even in such a small format. After you've gotten a lot of practice from things like that. This has a lot of intermediate level sonatinas. Although, you know, the formatting is really small, so you might want to hold off on this or maybe get a different format if you want to take it easy and you're trying to learn a piece that is higher than your level. So yeah, I was disappointed because this is actually missing a certain piece by Clementi, a certain sonatina by Clementi. Was it? I'm not sure. A piece that actually, the main reason why I got this is because the Dussek Sonatina in G major, number 20, opus 20, number 1. I am in love with it, but unfortunately it was too difficult for me at about 8 months. It was too difficult. So I look forward to doing that. So yeah, this is what I've been now starting to work on after taking a month and a half to 2 months off. And yeah, you guys, so that was my collection. I'm getting sunburnt right now, so I gotta go. But overall, pretty good stuff. I feel like I learned a lot. I felt like I spent too much time on Bergmiller, but what can you do about that, you know? Alright, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like outdoor videos, check out my other videos. And if you want more of piano music themed videos, let me know in the comments and subscribe to my channel. You can select personalized notifications, so you will receive notifications from my channel that are specific to what you like. So if you don't like outdoorsy stuff, YouTube is not going to notify you. It'll just notify you of the piano stuff. So let me know in the comments what you think, if you've played any of these pieces, if you like any of these books, or if you have any questions or recommendations, or asking me for recommendations on what you should be doing on your piano path. Yeah!